T.I. As 21-year-old son, King Harris has spent the last few weeks turning the internet upside down. From a leaked fight video circulating on social media to a traffic stop that ended with a Pikachu onesie mugshot, a handgun on a dashboard, and his father pulling up on police officers in the middle of the night, the Harris family name is back in the headlines, and Ty is in the middle of all of it. So let's break down everything that's happened with King Harris and YT. I has had enough. On April 12th, 2026, somewhere around 1 a.m. on a stretch of road near Holcomb Bridge Road and Peachtree Corner Circle in Peachtree Corners, Georgia, a Gwinnett County police officer spotted something unusual. A camo-wrapped Tesla Cybertruck was flying down the road at high speed. The officer clocked the vehicle doing 70 miles per hour in a 45 miles per hour zone. Body camera footage later showed the officer had to reach speeds of 80 miles per hour just to catch up to it. When the officer finally got the vehicle over and approached the driver's side window, things got tense immediately. Sitting behind the wheel was 21-year-old King Harris, rapper, reality TV personality, and the son of Atlanta hip-hop legend T.I. And King was not in a cooperative mood. But before the officer could even get into the speeding conversation, he noticed something that changed the entire nature of the stop. A handgun was sitting right there on the dashboard of the Cybertruck, right in plain view. The officer also noticed an open THC container in the center console. Naturally, the officer told King he needed to step out of the vehicle. King's response: he didn't move. The body cam captures King questioning the officer, asking, "You want me to get out my car and talk to me? About what?" The officer tried to explain the situation calmly. He pointed out that they were both within arm's reach of a loaded firearm and cited safety concerns. He even referenced a Supreme Court ruling, Pennsylvania versus Mims, a case that gives police the legal right to order drivers out of a vehicle during a lawful stop. But King was not having it. He continued to refuse to exit. What followed was a tense standoff between him and the officers. He was warned that if he didn't comply, he'd be arrested for obstruction. He eventually stepped out after speaking with his lawyer on the phone. But by that point, the damage was already done. Once he was out of the vehicle and being searched, King didn't exactly keep quiet. The body cam footage captured him taunting the officers. "Music?" he asked them. "Did it make you feel tough?" The officer's reply was, "Dry. Oh, it'd give me some paperwork." Then, while sitting in the back of the patrol car, King looked at the officers and asked, "What happened at home with y'all?" implying they were taking out personal frustrations on him. Here's where the story takes an even wilder turn. King Harris was wearing a full Pikachu Pokemon onesie at the time of his arrest. That's not a joke. That's what showed up in his booking photo. The 21-year-old son of one of Atlanta's most storied rappers was arrested in the middle of the night in a Tesla Cybertruck with a gun on the dash, wearing a bright yellow Pikachu outfit. You genuinely cannot make that up. He was taken into custody and transported to jail. During the booking process, things got worse. Authorities found a Schedule II controlled substance on his person. It was later identified as a suspected oxycodone pill. The charges started stacking up: possession of a Schedule II substance, music, willful obstruction of law enforcement officers, speeding at least 24 miles per hour over the limit, and a seatbelt violation. He was arrested around 2:30 a.m. and released on bond just after 8 a.m. in that music felony drug possession charge. He will now have to address that along with the traffic violations in court. But King Harris was not the only person who showed up on that body cam footage that night. Because while all of this was unfolding, somebody called his father. When word got to T.I. that his son was being detained on the side of the road in Peachtree Corners, music, he didn't wait. He got in his car and drove to the scene himself. His father, rapper Ty, arrived at the scene and was music briefed by the arresting officer. The Gwinnett County Police Department body cam footage shows the entire exchange. Now, music T.I. is no stranger to law enforcement encounters, both his own and his children's. The man has had his own well-documented history with the legal system, but this was different. This was his son sitting in the back of a patrol car at 2 o'clock in the morning wearing a Pokemon onesie, staring down multiple charges, including a felony. And T.I. I wanted to help his son resolve the situation on the scene, but it didn't music work. The body cam footage that was obtained and released publicly shows T.I. engaging with the officers directly. He was confronting the officers who arrested his son, not in a physically threatening way, but in the manner of a father who is frustrated, confused, and trying to understand why his son is about to be hauled off to a Gwinnett County jail cell in the middle of the night. T.I. arrived at the scene to try to resolve the situation, but King's refusal to exit the vehicle led to his arrest. By the time T.I. got there, the arrest was already in motion. The obstruction charge was already being written up. The contraband had already been noted. There was nothing T.I. could do at that point but watch. And this is where it becomes more than just another celebrity arrest story. This is a father watching the consequences of his son's choices play out in real time, on camera, knowing that the entire world would see it. Because the Gwinnett County Police Department did release the body cam footage. It went everywhere. TMZ, Fox 5 Atlanta, The Breakfast Club, social media. Millions of people watched T.I. standing on the side of that road, trying to talk to officers while his son sat in handcuffs. The body cam footage revealed that Harris's famous father, T.I., tried to get him out of trouble. That didn't work out, and he was booked regardless. T.I. pushed. He advocated. He did what any parent in that situation would do. Music, he tried to intervene. But the law doesn't bend because your father has platinum records. King was processed and spent the night in jail. Music. After being released on bond the following morning, King took to Instagram and did what King Harris does best. He made light of the entire situation. King Harris, wearing a Pikachu onesie, addressed the incident in a video on Instagram, rapping about being caught by the police, music, and spending the night in jail. He posted a photo of himself in the onesie and wrote about living a good Pikachu life in Tokyo, then come back to ATL and Team Rocket catch me with a master ball and throw me in jail all night. He even compared the police to Team Rocket from the Pokemon franchise. In a follow-up post, he said, "F that police," music, and threatened to sleep with his arresting officer's wife. For T.I., who showed up at the scene trying to be a responsible father, trying to get his son music out, trying to de-escalate, watching King turn the whole thing into a social media comedy bit must have hit different. Because this is not the first time King has put the Harris family name in the news for the wrong reasons. Not even close. And what happened next, just music days later, poured even more fuel on an already raging fire. This arrest in Peachtree Corners was not some isolated incident. King Harris has a growing track record of run-ins with the law that paints a deeply concerning picture, especially when you're the son of one of the most famous rappers in Atlanta history. In October 2024, Harris was arrested in Dunwoody, Georgia, after being pulled over while driving a BMW. Police reported that he nearly collided with a patrol car when leaving a gas station. When the officers approached his vehicle, they detected the odor of marijuana and found Harris carrying a firearm on his hip. He was taken to DeKalb County Jail. They also quickly realized that he had a warrant for failure to appear. So, this was already on his record, before the Peachtree Corner stop even happened. And it's not just law enforcement encounters. The behavioral pattern traces back years, all the way to when King was just 15 years old. Back in January 2020, a video of the rapper and Tiny Harris's 15-year-old son, King, in a school fight surfaced and went viral. The clip showed King fighting with a schoolmate in a school bathroom. The two boys threw several punches as they brawled as a few kids idly stood by and watched. And the reason for that fight, according to King's older sister, Zanique, King and his classmate began to argue over a sweatshirt that the classmate was wearing. Apparently, the apparel represented Kodak Black, who is an archenemy of T.I. and the family. Even at 15 years old, King was throwing punches over family loyalty. Some may recall Kodak referring to T.I.'s wife, Tiny Harris, as Piggy, while also declaring himself a better rapper than T.I. So the bad blood ran deep. King responded to the viral fight video the way he always does, by getting on social media and defending himself. He took to social media to give his followers a rundown of what happened. He claimed the clip only showed the beginning and that he only got hit once. Then, in September, Music 2022, Harris was involved in a verbal altercation at a Waffle House in Atlanta that drew public attention after a video of the incident surfaced online. His parents later addressed the incident publicly, defending their son while acknowledging the challenges of growing up in the spotlight. See, this is the thread that connects everything. Each incident doesn't happen in isolation. Each one builds on the last. Each one puts more pressure on the Harris family. Music, and each one seems to push T.I. closer and closer to a breaking point. Because the reality is this: King Harris doesn't just get into trouble. Music, he broadcasts it. Harris has also drawn attention for his outspoken use of social media, where he has clashed with critics and responded music directly to commentary about his family. Every arrest, every fight, every confrontation, music, it's all on camera, all on Instagram Live, all going viral within hours. That's what music makes. This different from a typical celebrity kid getting into trouble. King seems to relish the attention, music, and then came the leaked fight footage that dropped on April 21st, 2026. Posted on social media with the caption, T.I. Son King leaks school fight. And the internet exploded all over again. Just 9 days after his arrest in Peachtree Corners. Just 9 days after his father tried to get him released from police custody on the side of the road. Another fight, another video, another headline with the Harris family name, music splashed across it. To understand why T.I. is at the end of his rope, music, you have to understand the history between him and King. Because this isn't just about a father being disappointed in his son's behavior. This is about a father who has publicly tried music to steer his son in the right direction, and a son who has publicly resisted music every step of the way. The most explosive example happened in November 2023. T.I. and his son King Harris were involved in a heated argument regarding the teenager's silver spoon upbringing. Music, an exchange that ultimately turned into a physical altercation between the two. The whole thing went down at an Atlanta Falcons game on Sunday, November 26th, while the Harris family were in attendance at the Atlanta Falcons divisional matchup against the New Orleans Saints. T.I. and King began disagreeing over the latter's privileged childhood. The argument started when T.I. questioned music whether King truly understood hardship. In a clip that surfaced online, T.I. was heard asking King whether he'd ever woken up with a roach on his face, his way of saying King had never experienced genuine poverty. King was not willing to accept that characterization. He offered to show T.I., his mother Tiny Harris, music, and others in a room a drug den in a neighborhood he frequents as proof of his affiliation with the streets. Music, he accused T.I. of lying to make himself look better publicly. The exchange got physical. King demanded that his father let him go. However, T.I. began to chastise his son for his embarrassing statements while telling King he's physically outmatched. T.I. was heard telling King, "You are embarrassing yourself and your family." That line, embarrassing yourself and your family, that's the line that tells you everything about where T.I.'s head is at with King. During the Instagram Live that captured the incident, King was seen getting into a shouting match, presumably with his parents. Music, he kept shouting about standing on business, asking why people were playing with him. An unknown person was seen shoving King, who then shouted, "What's wrong with y'all? Why y'all doing that to me?" And then King went to Instagram to make his position clear. He wrote, "I stand on business. Don't give a FK2R. A gaff or meth can't play with me in my face. Not going for the Emma grown a man now." He didn't name T.I. directly, but everyone knew who he was talking about. The irony in all of this is thick. Just weeks before, music, that Falcons game blow-up, King and T.I. had appeared together at ComplexCon Music 2023 and discussed the possibility of King playing his father in a biopic. T.I. had said of his son, "I think he music can do anything he puts his mind to. He just has to get over his own limitations." That's a father who still believes in his sons. Potential. That's a father who still sees something worth fighting music for. But that optimism has been tested over and over. King's ongoing insistence, music, that he was raised tough, that he's from the streets, that he doesn't need his parents' guidance, it grates against everything music has tried to build for his family. And it grates against the reality that King grew up in gated communities and luxury that most people will never experience. Tiny then chimed in telling King he did have a silver spoon, with King interjecting by claiming that he often spent time at his grandmother's house and often got into fights as a child. Both parents pushed back on King's narrative, and King pushed back on theirs. That tug of war, the constant public battle between father and son, music over identity, image, and control is at the heart of why every new King Harris headline hits so hard. Because T.I. knows what real consequences look like. He's been to federal prison. He's faced serious charges. He's rebuilt his life and his career from the ashes of his own mistakes. And music. He's watching his son walk directly toward the same pitfalls without any of the fear or caution that experience is supposed to teach you. Music. So here we are, April 2026. King Harris is 21 years old. He's facing felony drug charges in Gwinnett County. He has a history of arrests. Music. He has a history of public altercations. He has a history of going viral for all the wrong reasons. Music and his father, one of the most respected figures in Atlanta hip-hop, has been caught on body cam, on Instagram Live, and on TMZ, trying to manage the fallout over and over again. The music leak fight video that surfaced on April 21st, 2026 is just the latest chapter. Just 9 days after the Peachtree Corners arrest. Music, the clip circulated with the tag T.I. Son King leaked school fight. Music, and reignited a conversation that never really died down. People started asking the same questions they've been asking for years. Music, where are the parents? What is T.I. doing about this? Can anyone get through to King? Music, and the truth is T.I. has tried. The body cam footage proves it. He showed up in the middle of the night to try to get his son released. T.I. pushed for King Harris's release after the onesie arrest. He engaged with the police. He advocated. He played the role of the protective father. But the system had already taken over. The charges were filed. The booking was complete. Then there's the broader family dynamic. Music. King is one of 7 children that T.I. and Tiny Harris parent. He's not the only kid in the house. He's not the only child, Music, with a public profile, but he's the one who generates the most headlines for negative behavior. And that takes Music a toll. Not just on T.I. and Tiny, but on the entire family brand. The Harris name is attached to reality shows, music, business ventures, music, and public appearances. Every time King's mugshot circulates or a fight video drops, it reflects on all of them. News of King Harris's latest legal woes comes just a few weeks, Music, after he made headlines for jumping into his father's feud with 50 Cent. He released multiple diss tracks, Music, aimed at the G-Unit boss, making it clear that he wasn't willing to let disrespect towards his Music parent slide. So on one hand, King is fiercely protective of his family's honor. He went at 50 Cent, one of the biggest names in hip-hop, because he felt his parents' music were being disrespected. On the other hand, he's the same person who got into a physical altercation with his own father on Instagram Live and told the world he doesn't care who you are. That contradiction defines King Harris, loyal and reckless at the same time, willing to defend a family name with his fists while simultaneously dragging it through the mud with his choices. Music and T.I. has always maintained that he believes in his son. Even during the Complex Con appearance, T.I. said he could see King playing him as biopic and added, Music, I think anything he puts his mind to, he can do it if he wants to do it. That's a father who hasn't given up hope. But hope has to compete with reality. And the reality right now is that King Harris is facing court dates, felony charges, and a public reputation that gets harder to rehabilitate with every passing week. Whether T.I. can reach his son before the consequences become permanent. before a judge makes a decision that no amount of parental music advocacy can reverse? That remains the open question. Because the legal system doesn't care about your last name. It doesn't care about your father's discography. It doesn't care about your Pikachu onesie or your Instagram posts or your music diss tracks. The charges are real. The courtroom is next. For T.I., a man who has survived federal prison, rebuilt his career, maintained his marriage, music, and raised 7 children in the relentless spotlight of fame, watching King spiral in public must feel like watching his own past repeat itself. Except this time, he's powerless to stop it. He can show up at the traffic stop. He can confront the music officers. He could try to bail his son out. But at the end of the day, King Harris is a 21-year-old man making his own choices, music, and those choices have consequences that even T.I. can't outrun. The only question that remains is whether King will learn that lesson on his own or whether the system will teach it to him the hard way. Because right now, the trajectory is headed in one direction, and every leaked video, every arrest, every altercation brings T.I.'s worst fears one step closer to becoming reality.